Welcome back. Today we're looking at adding more monsters to the game. We're looking at the jelly to start with, and so we'll just get started, I guess. We'll check our sprites to see if we have these sprites yet. I think so. Yeah, here's the jelly sprites right here. There's 4 of them, so we're going to have to deal with each one. And we're going to have to create some new objects. First is one called Object Enemy, which I think is a child of Hazard, but it's still a parent class. And then Object Enemy Die. This is what the enemies turn into when they die. And then there's Object Enemy Splat. And so let's create these first. We'll start with Object Enemy. Again, we're going to put these all into hazards, not for sprites, but for objects. So here's hazards, and we're looking at Object Enemy. And again, this one just acts as a parent class. And let's also create Object Enemy Die. This one does get a sprite though. So I choose that sprite here. Miscellaneous. No, not miscellaneous. Hazards. Hazards. So I'm looking for it here and I don't see it. That's the Beastie Die. There's Jelly Die. I wonder why we have an Enemy Die. Maybe that's a parent class too, so maybe it doesn't take a sprite. So let's clear that field then. I wonder how to clear it. I'll say none. And then Object Enemy Splat, another one. Evidently they can get squished. We do have a Splat sprite, so maybe we use that here. Here's Splat. And then we have to be careful on Splat because we have to set the depth correctly. We want the Splat to be in front of everything else, I think. So let's see, how would we specify the depth? I guess we're going to have to worry about that later. It's probably based on what layer you put it in. So once we get there and we actually create it and use it, we can figure out what layer it goes into. So we're using layers more than depth now anyway. Depth seems to be managed automatically now by the GameMaker IDE. Well, let's open up Object Enemy. We'll start with that, and we're going to add a destroy event to Object Enemy. Now, we don't typically attach anything to object or to the destroy event. But this is when the enemy is being deleted or gotten rid of. We want to actually play a sound when they die. The question is, do we have that sound? So first we have to see if we have play sound here. Yeah, there's the play. And we'll see if the sound exists yet. We'll go look for it. Yeah, hurt, skid. I don't see it, so I'm going to have to go make it. Hang on just a moment. Alright, so making the sound, go to the sounds menu, say create sound. We'll call it S&D enemy die. And then we'll load it. If I can find where to do that. It's kind of obscure. It's this button here. Here's enemy die. So now we have the sound. And we don't want it to loop, so we just want to make sure it doesn't loop. See what it sounds like. Okay. Like glass breaking or something. So we have our sound. And then, oh, that got detached. Interesting, it's movable. This windowing environment is not the best, unfortunately. You kind of have to have a super monster screen to be able to do anything with it. But here's where we're going to play the sound. That's right, we were adding the enemy die. We were here. Object enemies destroy event. We want to play this audio. Now that we have the file, we can choose it. We don't want it to loop. There's no target involved, I don't think. Cool. So that one's done. Next we want to repeat an action 4 times. Okay, so how do you repeat an action in GameMaker? Yeah, it looks like they still have the same the old repeat thing. So what we want to do is grab that. We'll put it after we play the audio. How many times do we want to repeat? We want to say 4 times. So this is like a for next loop or a for loop going from 1 to 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create pieces of enemies randomly in random directions, I guess. And we'll do it 4 times. So first we're doing a create moving. Let's see if that still exists in GameMaker. Create moving. No. Let's just look at create. Yeah, I'm looking at the old create moving, and I just don't see it here. Nothing really that equates with that. So we're going to have to kind of manufacture it. So let's just do a regular create then. If you pull it to the right of the repeat, then it becomes part of the loop. What are we creating? We're creating an enemy die object. So it's under hazards, object, enemy die. Yeah. Where do we create it? We want to create it x 0, y equals 0. We'll make them relative. It's interesting here how they have the relative split. Usually it's just one relative checkbox, but here they have 2, one for x and one for y. But then now we have to set a speed and direction on this thing. The question is, how do we refer to it once we create it? This is interesting. Let me think about this for a sec. I suppose what we can do is we can, in the create event of object enemy die, we can actually give it a direction and a speed. So why don't we do that? And then we also want to create a Splat instance as well. So another create instance here. This time we're creating the Splat. The enemy got killed. There's the Splat. We'll make it a relative x and y. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a K key. So when the letter K gets pressed, this is just to test the game. We'll have to take this out later, I suppose. But let's add a keyboard event or key event. They've changed the names a little bit. Key down event, I guess. A letter K. That's to kill all the enemies. This will kill all of them because they're all be children of this enemy class. And what do we want to do? We just want destroy them, or yeah, here. Destroy position, destroy instance. All right, now let's add a create event to object enemy die. Well, before we go too much further, let's go make sure we give that speed and direction to our object enemy die object in its create event. So here's object enemy die. We need to add a create event here. And what we'll do in its create event is we'll give it the motion that was being asked for earlier. First was a direction. So we want to set the direction. Set the direction variable. And here we're going to say random 180. And what that will do is we'll shoot it off in a direction either straight right or straight left or anywhere in between going up. So that's the first thing. And then we have to set the speed. You want the speed to be 4. That's the animation speed. This is the movement speed. And we'll use the direction as our type. Here, see how direction is capitalized? Yeah. So I guess it's capitalized. And then when any of these enemy pieces get created, it will create 4 of them because we're in a loop 4 times, and then shoot the pieces off in random directions going up. So it looks like it disintegrates. That's probably what they're trying to shoot for. Kind of like this detach menu. You can just put it anywhere you want. Now let's go and add a create event to object enemy die. So right now, oh yeah, we're in the create event. Okay, so that's where we are right now. And what we want to do is add yeah, this is kind of odd. All right, so from what I'm reading, we have to do something kind of kludgy, it seems. We need to set a variable. So we'll do that. Variable. Let me just type in variable and see if we can find the category. Kind of like the search feature. What variable are we setting? We're going to call this Sprite index. And that might be a predefined variable, actually. Yeah, Sprite index. It's a built-in variable, so it comes already. And what are we setting it to? Well, there's this global variable we're going to need. I don't think we've created it yet. I don't think. Die Sprite. Now look there. Global die Sprite. Is that just what I typed in? Index. Yeah, it's just reading what I typed in. So yeah, global.die underscore sprite underscore index, which hasn't been created yet, I guess. Now, if we go in and actually look at the enemy die sprites, let's look at them. If I can get this out of the way. Here's our sprites. It's under hazards. Object enemy die that's beastie die. Yeah, there's enemy limit. I don't see it. So I guess we'll have to create it. I was thinking we had these all done. Evidently not. So sprite enemy die. And then we'll import that. Hopefully it exists out on our list here. Sprite enemy limit. Splat. Sprite Zool die left. That's Zool's, but we were trying to do enemy, right? So it would be, it's the B. The B has a dying sequence. Here's another one. But there's no enemy die sprite, so I'm going to have to go grab that and put it out on the website. Hang on just a second. So it looks like I'm a little confused. Enemy die is actually a parent class, so it doesn't have a sprite associated with it. And there are specific dying sequences, like the ones we see here, like there's the sprite B die and there's sprite beastie die. And so this object is going to serve as a enemy die object is going to serve as a parent class for these, but the sprites don't get assigned until the children. So that's why I'm a little bit confused here. So there is no sprite enemy die, so we can actually get rid of that. So I'm just going to delete that. You might be asking yourself, why don't I have this all figured out before I make the video? And one of the things I think is important for students to see is when you run into problems, what do? I mean, when you have a problem in a program, usually when you get a tutorial video, what happens is whoever's doing the tutorial has already worked out all the problems and just tells you how to do it so that it doesn't waste a lot of time in the video. However, what that leaves out is the ability to see how a programmer deals with problems when they run into them. And so I think it's educational for students to see a programmer make mistakes, also struggle, also try to figure out, well, why doesn't this work? That's what you do all day long as a programmer. And if you never model that for students, then I don't think students are going to get that experience. So that's why I don't do that. You'd figure I do this once and then I make a video and I do it again after I work out all the kinks. But running into the kinks and solving each of the kinks is just as important as the material itself. So that's why I kind of do my videos this way. All right, so we have this object enemy die object there, but it doesn't have a sprite associated with it, at least not yet. It will be in the children, I suppose. So what do we do in this repeat loop? Where is the repeat loop? It's in the... I kind of lost track of where we are. We're in object enemy, destroy event of object enemy, I think. I have this marker in my head. Yeah, here we are. Destroy. Yeah, we destroy instance. Are we in the destroy event? That's the key down event. Let's look at this destroy event. Here it is. We do this 4 times. We create an instance of object enemy die, and then we create, or 4 instances of that, and then an enemy splat. Now, do we do the splat 4 times, I wonder? I wonder if that's in the loop or not. We'll have to see. So we have the letter K. We have that figured out. Let's see. Yeah, so I have to do a little bit more looking. All right, so we're back to object enemy die in its create event. So we're supposed to put stuff. Here we set the sprite index. Next we need to set something called the image index. I personally don't understand, or I don't quite get right now what the difference between the two is. There's the sprite index and then the image index. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but we'll do what it says and see what happens. Next. When you have a series of assignments, you can actually just click this plus sign and then go to the next variable and just add it. So let's do this next one. This one's called image index. So image index, and we want to set that equal to something called, we want to randomize it, so we say random, and then something called image number, which I don't understand what that means either. So we're going to have to look these up, I think. Image number. Okay. And then one more variable is the image speed. So we'll add that. It's a built-in variable. And we set the image speed to 0. So we want to stop the animation. Right. We also want to set gravity on this thing. So let's do that. So they fall off the screen. Set gravity force. Set gravity direction. These used to be all in the... I don't know how that got there already. Set gravity direction would be 270 because that's down. And then set gravity force. If you double click on it, it just adds it. Yeah. And the force we want to use is 1. Yeah, so it's 1 for direction, or 1 for force and 270 for direction. So that's it on the create event. What other events do we have to do for object enemy die? We have to add a outside room event. So I think that's other outside room. So what goes outside the room, I think we just want to destroy it. Yeah, so when they fall off screen, we want to just destroy them. So they destroy themselves outside the room. Well, that's destroy position. We don't want that. Destroy instance, that one. And then I guess the splat is it's got an animation involved with it, so we have to take care of that animation, and at the end of the animation we have to get rid of the splat. So what we'll do on the splat then is we'll add a create event. Here's our create event. Yeah, playing games with the windowing system. You can tell they didn't design this windowing system. It doesn't. I'm going to reset the window layout so I can get. Lovely. Close everything. Okay, so this didn't go away though. That's what I was hoping. By resetting the window layout, it would actually get this to go somewhere else. Back here then, I have to open up what we were working on. So we were working on Splat, right? Here's Splat. This has no way to actually move it, so I just have to grab corners and drag, I guess. All right. In this create event, we want to set the variable image speed. So we do a variable set. Set variable. And we'll say image speed. And we'll set that to 0.5. So it'll change every other frame. to slow it down a bit. And then we also want to add an animation end event. So that's under other, animation end. At the end of the animation, we want to have it just destroy itself as well. So we'll do an instance destroy. And that's this one. And that's all the stuff you need to do for the parent object enemy die object. These are all the things related to it. Now all of this is pretty strange. Why do they go to all this trouble for this object that doesn't really have a animation? Well, all the enemies are going to share the same dying animations. So that's why they made a parent object enemy dies, because they don't want to have to do an animation for all the enemies. They just want them all to use the same one. But yeah, so earlier I was trying to figure out the difference between an image index and a sprite index. And the sprite index is actually is each specific sprite. So the sprite index would be like what's the sprite index for the beastie that dies, or what's the sprite index for the jelly that dies. So that's different than the image index, which is what's the current frame they're on in the animation. So that's kind of what I'm trying to understand right now. And so I think that's the way that works. So now we're at the point where we can start creating the different monsters. We've set up the parent classes and we're ready to go. We can't really run anything at this point, so it's a little bit dissatisfying or unsatisfying here at the end not to be able to run anything and see that it works, because we don't have any of the other ones or any of the monsters built yet. But we'll start that next time, and I'll keep this video relatively short.